Hi, wonderful people. Welcome back to Kweshunga. My name is Penelope Sanyu. I am your beautiful host. Yes, I am your beautiful host. And I am super. I say I'm super excited every week, and I do not see the excitement from you guys, but I am grateful for you. I am grateful that you've taken the time to stop and watch all these episodes that we bring to you. I am excited and grateful that you take the time to comment and leave suggestions in the comments. I am glad that you're doing that. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, Kweshunga is a space that's reclaiming play as a way of life, and therefore we are here to share stories to inspire you to live a full, authentic life and also to play. Life is too serious. You need to loosen up and play a bit. Now, last week we started a journey on grief. We're talking about, grief and the different spaces there are. And I introduced you to a very beautiful lady called Kecho who runs the Vessel With Me, and that space that holds pain for people and helps them deal with that grief. This week, we're spicing things up a little bit because I found someone who's not afraid to talk about miscarriages. Yes, you heard me right. We're talking about grief in the form of miscarriages. And so I am not going to even waste any more time talking much about this because I'm not an expert on this. I don't think she's an expert on this, but her story will help us understand what miscarriages are, why they happen, how they happen, and what we can do while we are going through the grief of having miscarriages. So welcome with me, my beautiful guest today, Julie. You're welcome to Kweshunga.
Thank you so much.
I am super excited to be seated next to you because usually I see you from a distance, and now the proximity is a good thing. Who is Julie? What does Julie do? How is Julie who she is, and what makes Julie different from everything else?
Oh, where do I start? Well, my name is Juliette Segwanyi. Some people call me Jules.
I hope it's okay to call you Jules because
I always say by the time you call me Jules, then you really know me.
Now that I have hosted you, I really know you, so I can call you Jules.
You might be calling me Jules.
Okay.
And I am Juliette Segwanyi. I am a wife. I am a property manager. So I manage properties and I enjoy doing that. I am a mentor. I like to dabble in organizing spaces.
Ah, nice.
So I enjoy that.
We have something in common.
I love traveling. I love traveling. I have really pretty much traveled a lot of different places. Even ended up living in South Korea for about a year. Teaching English, but I really wanted to travel. So everything always comes back full circle to travel. And I'm a recent author. I wrote a book, Unbroken. So this is the book I wrote. And for me, that is the thing that has helped me to discover my purpose and why I'm here. It hasn't been a journey of like joy, but I am so happy I can speak into this journey of miscarriage, as you have mentioned earlier. And my book is really about finding peace and hope. How do you find peace and hope through miscarriage? I don't want to say a victim. I have gone through miscarriage, and not just one, several miscarriages. So I would be someone that would say, okay, I have had recurrent miscarriages, and that's when you have miscarriages more than two, three times. But I'm still here and I'm still standing. So how have I been able to do that? And honestly, I don't think me physically myself would have been able to do it without the support of my husband, family. Family has rallied behind me. God, my go-to person is definitely, just being in prayer. That's where I find the peace. That's where I find just, what do I do? I mean, of course, you go through the grief process. Grief process meaning there's several processes first shock and denial, because you're just thinking, what?
This can't be
I
happening.
know, what's
would it
happening to
happen?
me?
Yeah.
Then you go through anger, like, okay, why is it me out of all the people
Yeah.
that it's happening to
Yeah.
me?
Yeah.
And then you go into bargaining, like, okay, maybe it was because I
did something wrong, or
Yes,
I wasn't eating
I wasn't
right,
eating
I wasn't
right.
sleeping
What did
well.
I do wrong?
Yeah.
So you're bargaining,
Coming
like
up with
trying
all
to
these
find
sorts of
out
justifications.
Yes, and then in that bargaining, then you end up going into depression and sadness. Sometimes it's not, for me, it wasn't going into a deep depression, but of course there's that overwhelming sadness around you, because you're thinking, why me?
Yeah.
It always comes back to why me. And then you go into acceptance. Not acceptance that, okay, I'm okay with the fact that I went through it, but how do I carry on? And that's what Unbroken is about, is how do you pick up those broken pieces? Now that you're trying to hope again, you know, try to find peace in what you're going through. How do you pick up the broken pieces?
I think that for me, I'm glad that we're even talking about the book, but before we get deeper into the book, one of the things I want to thank you for is for the courage, even just sitting here next to me to share your story. I know that some of these things like miscarriages, are very personal, deeply private matters. And so thank you for choosing to share your story with us, because I know there are so many young women out there who are probably going through miscarriages and recurrent ones. And you have no one to talk about it with. You don't even know how to talk about it. And you're going through the different stages. So having someone who can relate with you is like a good thing. And I hope that by the time we are done having this conversation, someone out there will know that it's not my fault. It's not my fault, and it's okay. It's not okay right now, but it has happened, and I need to pick myself up and find a way to move. The journey to the book.
Yes.
Because that's where it all started. It starts with you, the person. Tell me about your marriage, before the marriage, your marriage. Because, you know, as young women, you have all these dreams. And as little girls, you start out, you know, thinking, I'm going to grow up. I'm going to marry a good, rich, handsome man. I'm going to have these beautiful babies. And then life begins to happen. So just take us a bit about your backstory, like through the transitions from school, then you get married, then you start trying to have babies intentionally, and then the miscarriages begin to happen. Then what?
Right.
Yeah.
So as I said, I like traveling. So it's always about, okay, I want to do as much travel before I get married.
Yeah.
And, you know, into my 30s, I studied in the US. So I went to high school in the US.
Okay.
Went to university. So most of my growing up years were in the
Was
US,
out of,
as well as Kenya the earlier years. So going into the US, I mean, you know, you don't get that pressure about, okay, you're 30.
Yes.
You need to go get
To
married.
get married.
Where's your spouse? And my parents were so gracious. My parents are very free about anything. And they're just always like, oh, if you want to travel, that's okay. You know, I'm the oldest of 6. So my siblings are getting married. My brother's getting married, you know, and
everyone's looking at you like,
what about you? Aunties and uncles are just thinking, okay, so what's going on? You know, so of course there's always that, you know, hey, you know, your daughter, other outsiders
people are bringing the pressure
concerned.
on, yes.
But my family and my parents were just like, hey, you know, you want to do your thing. And I felt like I wasn't so like, okay, run to the aisle, because I also saw that a lot of people, I mean, as you know, US, 50% ends up in divorce.
Yes.
And I always thought, okay, I don't want to end up in divorce. I want to find the right person. Well, the right person didn't come until I was about 39, almost 40, which it didn't scare me. I wasn't thinking, oh, I'm not going to be able to have babies. You know, you never go into marriage thinking that. I've, you know, found a wonderful man who I met in the US. He's Ugandan as well, which was, you know, like icing on the cake. That, okay, you know, he's from the same background, but lived in the US as well. But we, you know, we got married, came back home to get married, went back to the US. So in that hustle and bustle, I mean, of course, the first year you're just thinking, you just want to, you know, have fun and not really rush into things. So a year into, I got married at around 39. a year into it, is trying to get pregnant, and we couldn't get pregnant, at least for 1 year. And then I wasn't really scared. I was just like, okay, you know,
Like
it's just
it
taking a bit of
happens.
time.
We're excited, or we're just
Exactly.
like, it will work. It will work out.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then we got pregnant. Of course, we're excited. We're calling parents.
Yeah.
Everyone who wants to know, hey, you know, guess what? We're pregnant. Of course, hey, Julie's pregnant.
Everyone
you know.
is excited.
So of course, in that excitement, you're doing, you know, trying to scale down with work, trying to make sure
You're
that you're
doing
doing
the
everything
things by
right.
the book because
Exactly.
you know it's got to be right.
So then, going through the pregnancy, everything's going well. Preparing for the baby at 18 weeks, I remember it was like an evening.
Yeah.
And then I don't know anything about it. Like, my water breaks. I didn't know it was my water breaking. And then I'm thinking, okay, this is not good. This is 18 weeks.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I'm thinking, oh my gosh, let's go to the emergency room. It's evening. Our doctors, you know, in the US, it's not like your doctor, you're not able to call your doctor right away. So you have to, you know, I think we text our doctor, and then he said, just go to the emergency room. So we go to the emergency room, and they're looking for the heartbeat, and they can't find the heartbeat. You know, but in all that, you're just thinking, maybe
your mind is
again.
not taking you to the worst because you're optimistic that, you know,
it was. And
things
then
will
the
work
technician
out.
is kind of not saying anything. She's just, but you can tell from her mannerisms, like, okay, this is not good.
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden she's just kind of like, you know, shaking her head. I'm just thinking,
What's going on?
Talk
to
you know?
me.
So if you know, obviously the sad thing was, okay, you know, she finally had to say, okay, you know, we can't see the heartbeat. And then my husband and I were like, what? Like, did she just say that? So in all that, you're just trying to gather all your, like, you know, so you're just like, what? So then, because it was evening, it was nighttime, so you have to go back home. So now you're going back home, you're just thinking, okay, what's going on? You know, so that emotion, you're just thinking, oh my gosh. So then, of course, you know, my husband's there, and I remember the first thing we did was pray.
Yeah.
And, you know, he was just like, everything's going to be okay. Yeah. So we called my doctor. So the next day, he does, you know, the DNC. I get admitted, do the DNC, just means that you clean you up, take the fetus out and stuff like that. And it was just, you know, going back home the next couple of days was just like, okay.
This did not just happen.
Then having to call your parents and your family. That was like, oh my gosh. My mom's like, what? My dad, everybody's just thinking, no, you're so far away from everyone. Yeah. So you're just kind of like, you're not sure what to do. So in all that, that's when I'm like, okay, God. Yeah. Because I remember the first thing we did with my husband was pray.
Pray, yeah.
And then we're just like, okay, we don't understand this, but God, you know. And, you know, and someone can be like, okay, how can you get through something? And again, going through the process, the grieving process, and it looks different for everyone. Yeah. So then we just kind of were like, okay, it's not like we can try again. So we were just like, okay, let's just, you know, have memory of our baby who we had named. She was a girl, and we're like, oh, baby Abigail. We already had the name. So we just had, you know, some mementos of her, and just kind of, you know, try to go through the process.
Isn't that so? Let me just stop you there, because you said something important that I want to pick up on. You said remembering your baby, and I know that for so many people it's harder to keep the memories.
Yes.
I want to forget. I want to be. I don't want to remember this. This is painful. Going through it, I don't want to relieve them. Memory by keeping something. So you named this child, you named Abigail, and you embraced Abigail, even though Abigail did not come to life. Tell us about that. Why is it important to remember? Why is it important to name? Why is it important to hold that memory?
Right.
Yeah.
It's different for everyone, Penny. I feel like some people don't want to have any sort of remembrance. They just want to, okay, I want to move on. I don't want to have to remember the baby. Yeah. So I feel like it's something, it's different for everybody, but we felt like, because it was the first, we felt like, okay, it was important for us to kind of have, you know, that memory of her. And it was like in form of, okay, the first sonogram, the first scan, frame it. And we had a nice Bible verse, you know, before I knew you, before I formed you, I knew you. And for us, that was the remembrance. It wasn't like, okay, we're gonna, you know, have like some sort of
ceremony.
Yeah. For us, it wasn't, you know, we wanted just like a photo or something like that to just help us to get through that process. Now, I mean, the next year I was like, okay, you know, put it away, but you still have that remembrance.
Of course.
You know, because then I didn't want to dwell on, okay, you know, now I feel stuck because I'm just dwelling on what could have been, what couldn't have been. So it was just my way of moving on, not moving on from not remembering her, but now moving on to, you know, more, you know, trying again, which we ended up doing actually in the same year. And then we lost the baby again. But now it's at 6 weeks. And now it's like you're a bit numb. You know, because you're just thinking, okay,
this can't be happening again. Like
earlier weeks, but same process. So it gets to the point where you're just thinking, okay, something, you know, and you feel like you're really hard on yourself because, you know, and you have your support, you have your husband.
But
thank God I have my husband and my family. And, you know, and one thing is, I always knew in the back of my mind that miscarriage is not anyone's fault. For some reason or another, the baby doesn't make it. Usually it's about up until 20 weeks. That's when you want to be, you know, really cautious and making sure that, you know, hopefully once you get over that hurdle of the 20 weeks, then, you know, it's not smooth sailing, but it's a bit better. So at 6 weeks, you're still trying to find out. But one thing we found out for me, remember, I got married at 39. So my doctor always said, you know, when you have babies, there's chances that the baby would have some sort of genetic problems. So we did tests on the first baby and the second baby, and both had genetic chromosomal issues. So the first baby would not have survived. If they would have survived, they would have been disabled. And then the second one also had a chromosomal issue. So already we were getting answers from that. And not like closure, but just understanding. So then we were like, okay, so next time we have a baby, we will just do tests. Because you can do that. There, you know, I'm not saying, I don't know if we can do it here in Uganda, but you can actually test the fetus before, or the baby rather, before you give birth. So that was now our mission. We're like, okay, let's try again. Which, you know, it almost becomes, it's not obsessive, but it almost becomes, okay, now that I know what I know with the two, let's keep going. Because now time's not against us, but now we're realizing that, you know, we need to move fast. So we try the third time, we do everything properly, do the test, the baby's fine, no chromosomal issue. But still, okay, the doctor had said, okay, you might have like an incompetent cervix, which the cervix is not able to hold the baby. At a certain, about 20 weeks, you know, have miscarriages. So I'm like, okay, which is it? There's never any conclusive point of what it is. So we go through again, 17 weeks, and then it just happens. Water breaks. Now I'm thinking, okay, what's going on? The baby was fine.
And
now is it incompetent cervix? What is it? You
and
never
they also
know.
don't have
you
the
don't
answers.
know. You know?
Oh my goodness.
So it's just like that anxiety, because now you're thinking, okay, if I try again, it's just gonna be, it will work, maybe it won't work, but that anxiety of like every time feeling like, okay, I'm probably gonna miscarry. You know, it's almost like a mental.
Oh, Julie, I feel like hugging you right
you know?
now.
So...
But I will. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. It's. You know, sometimes you hear the stories and you're like, oh, it happens. And then hearing the story with this kind of proximity is even just shattering my heart. You mentioned something about a support system and you said parents, you know, and your husband is not here to speak for himself, but Just tell us a bit about your relationship in that time, because 3 miscarriages is not small. It's not a small thing. You're both dealing with different emotions. You're both healing differently. You're both going through so much. What toll did that have on your marriage, if at all? And maybe it brought you closer. Maybe there were moments where you were apart, but just share a bit, if you don't mind, what that meant for your marriage, and also a bit about what it meant for your faith. Because usually, you know, like in the book of Job, when things happen that we've trusted God for, and they are going a different way, it's very easy to question God and be like, you know, no, look, I'm done with you right now. How did your faith survive, and how did your marriage survive these multiple miscarriages?
Yeah. I'm so grateful for the positive side about waiting until I found the right partner. Because for me, that's so important. And if anything, I would say, you know, when you have a good support system, especially your partner, your spouse. Because my husband was there. I mean, one of the things I talk about in the book is that how each of us grieve differently as partners. And as women, we of course we're like, oh, you know, like everything shows on the outside. But thank God for a partner who is also not breaking down like I am. Because then I'm looking at him like for my rock. Like, you know, honey, I don't know what's going on. And he's just like this rock. Like, you know, you're able to just cry. You're able to tell him anything.
And he's probably crying too, but
crying
he's
inside, but
like,
he doesn't want to show you.
Yeah.
But, you know, he grieves too. And that's the thing I say about, you know, partners grieve differently. But sometimes partners or spouse, they want to be, you know, alongside you to hold you as you grieve. And I'm not saying that he didn't grieve as well. But, you know, it was different. Different times, it looked differently. Our way of supporting each other was prayer. Us opening up and talking to each other. Oh, how do you feel about it? You know, and just really having those
the honest conversations.
And sometimes those conversations are not there, but just knowing that he's there and you're able to just call him. And then he would send you a message. He would write me notes. Like before he went to
so
work,
sweet.
hey, you know, everything's going to be okay. I can't wait until, you know, you know, we'll try again or something like that. And for me, that was great support. Sending me flowers to work and just,
I love flowers.
Yeah, and just
and
letting,
handwritten
exactly,
notes,
and just letting me know that, you know, hey, I'm thinking of you, you know, especially, you know, going back to work after this very devastating time is, you know, hey, you know, I'm here as your support. For me, you know, that was good enough for me to be like, okay, well, you know, I feel supported. I feel loved. And at any one time, I didn't feel like, okay, I don't know, you know, about myself.
I don't have an anchor.
I don't know, I have an anchor. And then support system of family. I mean, all our family members are scattered. My parents were here in Uganda. My sisters, you know, living in another country. And just calls, hey, you know, Jules, we're thinking about you, you know, how are you doing? How's Steve? That constant reminder that your family is there.
You're not alone,
You're not alone. And then my husband's side of the family as well. So it's just like this inundating of messages. And because for me, getting out of that grief process or that depression or that sadness, that's what you need to sort of anchor you. You know, I'm not one to cower and just be like, okay, I'm going to do nothing. I'm just going to close the curtains. I don't know how to do that. And maybe it's that strong, you know, a person in me which just says, okay. And then it comes to God, is really just honestly just taking time with God and just saying, okay, I don't know what this is, but you know. And my favorite verse is Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord and lean not on your understanding, because my understanding is not making sense right now. So I'm leaning onto God. I'm anchoring myself onto God. And that was like daily, you know, affirmations as well, which I also have in the book of prayers, of things that I'm actually going through. And the thing that my mom says the most, don't worry, Jules, or Julie, she calls me. How old was Sarah? Don't worry, you know, and it's just that reminder that your parents are like, behind you. My dad included, who was just the biggest support. And for me, it just became this huge support network where it's like, okay, we're in this together, and we're gonna go at it together. Which then was, okay, instead of being in the US, I know it's very stressing there. Maybe you should come back. Come home. And I'm like, yeah, just come home. Next pregnancy, you just relax. You don't have to work. You work, but
not as much as
crazy.
It's not the expectation of time.
Yeah, and we were ready to come home. So then we decided, okay, let's go home. Come home to family. And to me, that was then now another phase. Remember, I said it was recurrent miscarriages. So them being there, because now by the third one, you're just kind of like, okay, anything happens after this, you're very afraid to try. And when you do get pregnant, it's just this fear
every day
you.
You're constantly holding on to the thread.
You go to the doctor, it's like, doctor, is everything okay? You go anyway, it's like, okay, I shouldn't do that, And it became like a constant reminder of what was before. And it was just one of those things where, like, okay, focus, God, trust in God. Lean not on, because that's how you get through. Despite, yes, you have the support, but now your private time, your time by yourself is when, mentally you're thinking, I don't know, can I do this? Can I do this again? And going into another pregnancy, and now we're like, okay, we're just going to cross our T's, dot our I's. We're going to get the stitch. There's a stitch you get before during the miscarriage. And it's a stitch to hold your cervix, so it doesn't, because now we said, okay, it's incompetent cervix. Maybe that's it. The testing of the baby, we don't know, because we don't know if we can do it here. But let's just go with the stitch.
I'm sitting here listening to you talk, and I'm feeling so many things, and I'm sure that even the people that are watching us are going through the many emotions, and I just want to talk about the redemption. How did you get out of that place? Because I know eventually, God comes through, and even when you're not sure He will, there's this hope that you have carried. You are very, you're a woman of faith. I am sitting here thinking, there's no way I would be questioning so many things. But just how are you now? How are you healing? And how are you healing others? Because I know this book is one of the offerings in on the journey to heal other people. Our stories are not ours to hoard and put in. They're ours to put out there and help so many other people. I just want to hear a bit about how you're healing, how you and your partner are healing, and how you're helping other young women cope and deal with this journey of grief, because grieving doesn't stop. I know that even today there, you stop the crying, but the grief is a continual thing. Definitely. Sometimes it hits you unexpectedly, and every day you need different tools to heal. So how are you coping now?
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like I could write a book, which I did. Right?
We'll need another book.
And I was just talking about the fourth miscarriage. There was a fourth miscarriage after the stitches. It didn't work. It was in hospital. My life's in danger. So at that point, life is in danger because I ended up bleeding, over bleeding, to the point where I was supposed to get my uterus out.
Oh my God.
So now there's decisions like, what? Uterus? Like, take her uterus. I'm never going to have a baby.
A child,
But, having that tough decision, and my husband being asked by the doctor, what should we do? Your wife's going to die if you don't make a decision. Now, he's just hard. Like, just take, just do whatever you have to do to save my wife's life. And then my mom, the prayer warrior, was just praying. Long story short, I didn't have to take my uterus out. I did have the miscarriage. I mean, the DNC, but it was one of those things where I was like, okay, God really has a purpose for me.
You have a plan.
He has a plan for me, and I just need to be hopeful, and I need to be
trust that it will work out. Yeah.
But in the meantime, in the waiting, really, what can I do? And that's when, you know, I was like, okay, you know, putting it in a book, because I didn't have that resource when I was going through this. You know, you go on Google and it's telling you
so many things.
Something's happening. You need to go to the hospital. You know, Google, you don't want to consult Google sometimes when you're going through these things, but you needed you know, like something to show you, okay, what emotions do you go through? How do you cope? How do you even tell others? How do you deal with insensitive people
comments
asking you why you haven't had babies? So for me, I just purpose, okay, God's walking with me. I have my big support network, and that's enough for me. So, but I was like, oh, you know, writing the book, I tried to find out, is there even a support group? So that's when I came across Denise with Vessel Is Me. And for me, it was like, with my mom, we were like, okay, this is perfect.
This is it.
We can go talk. I didn't want to write a book and just put it on the shelf and, you know, life goes on. I knew that this book was purposeful, and it wanted, you know, God wants me to go out and tell my story, but also help others to maneuver. It's going to look different for everybody. But how do you even understand? I mean, in a culture where we are so silent about everything,
how do you know what's going on? How do you
going
confide in people? How do
you, and how do you get that support?
And if you don't have a supportive family and spouse like you did, then what? You're doomed.
Yeah, but there's always other support networks. Your friends, your church. Church is really big support for me. But, you know, how do you get those people to rally around you? Because I always knew I didn't want to be, okay, I'm just going to be behind closed doors. Because I felt like that's not what God wants me to do. Because in all things, He never leaves us nor forsakes us. So that's what I always used to say. I mean, God, you didn't leave me. You haven't forsaken me. Maybe parenting is going to be different for me. You know, and that acceptance.
That you're still here.
But if the baby comes, then it will come and it will be joyful. So I've been able to parent my nieces, like my husband's family, the nephews and nieces. So I'm seeing that I have a big purpose as well. But I'm also hopeful that we're going to have a baby one day. Maybe we won't, maybe we will, but I mean, if we don't, it's not the end of the world.
It's not the end of the world.
So then I say, well, you know, I just affirmed to myself through the word that, you know, this is not the end of your story. You have so much more you can give. So partnering up with Denise was like a blessing in disguise, because I was just like, I can tell my story. Of course, as you tell your story, these memories also keep coming up. Because you kind of like, not shelved it, but you've put it aside, and then now you're just like, did I actually go through this?
You're reawakening the pain,
You are reawakening the pain, where you feel like, wow, how did I even
How
get through
did I
this?
survive? Yeah.
And when you tell the story, people are just like, what? And you're still like standing, you're still having a smile
That's
on your
exactly
face.
what's going on in my
serious?
mind right now. I'm like, who are you and how do you have all this grace? But
you know, I mean, God gives us the grace. Oh my gosh, He gives us the grace. And the more I was in the Word, I mean, it's just intentional, just being in the Word and being, I mean, really. Otherwise, I'm just like, I don't even know how I would survive. So for me now, it's a place of peace, a place of hope, and, you know, a place of giving back and helping others to understand that this is not the end of your story. It's not who you are. It's not your fault. Because a lot of people just think, okay, I'm not enough, you know. I'm not enough, and really, we are enough. We just, you know, we're angel moms, as they say. We have our angel babies, and you know, and you're not broken. You know, I didn't even have any thought, okay, what's the title of the book? It was Unbroken, because I was thinking, okay, you're not broken. Internally, you feel broken. You might feel broken, but you're not broken. You know, so I mean, for me, it's been a journey. It's been a support system. It's been God. It's been church, and it's just been being purposeful and giving back and paying. You know, just
paying it forward.
Paying it forward, and just saying, hey, if I knew what I knew when I was going through this, and I can give back to other people, then that, I mean, for me, I have lived out my
That's a
purpose.
win,
I'm
yes,
good, you
yes.
know. So, I mean, and for me, that's my journey, you know.
Wow.
Yeah.
I am so I don't have words for once in my life. I don't. So please tell us where we can find this book. And I know that you can be found at Vessel, but
Yes.
where can we get your book if we want copies of the book? And we can also find you at Vessel Is Me. I know that you and I are going to have more
Yes,
conversations because
definitely.
I totally am proud of you
No, thank
because
you.
it's, oh my God, like, yeah, like I said, so many feelings, so many emotions. I can't put them in words, and I know you're feeling the same out there. So I'll allow Julie to tell us where we can get her book, and she will leave us with one word or two or five as we close this. But yeah.
So my book, you can find my book at, I have it on Amazon. I was pretty proud of the fact that it's
Yeah,
in
it's on
Amazon.com.
Amazon.
It's also on Aristoc Books on Kampala Road.
Okay.
And then at Vessel as well. It's at Vessel Is Me,
Buy the
Denise.
book.
We'll share a contact.
Yes.
Where you can find it. I mean, actually, that's probably the easiest place to find it right now,
Yeah.
or Kampala Road, or
Okay.
just on Amazon as well. And, you know, you can call me, but also, you know, Vessel Is Me.
Yeah,
And
I like
as
that
well
it
as
has
other.
spaces to reflect and, think through. So it's a very good book. Please get yourselves copies, and let's keep these conversations going. I know that as Africans, we've been told some things are taboo topics. You can't talk about this
Yes.
thing. You deal with it quietly. You do things quietly, and I think it's time we stopped being quiet about certain things, because so many people can learn from what we're going through and can heal from what they're dealing with. So I'm grateful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your story with us and for trusting us with your story. I know for many people, they must be wondering, but how is this Kweshunga?
Yes.
It really is, because for me, even the fact that you're able to deal with these emotions, that you're able to feel these emotions and still smile through it, is in a way a part of questioning. So I'm glad that you're able to look this dope and still hold a beautiful smile even in the midst of this raging storm that's happening. And I know that, like you said, there's hope, there's peace, and I wish you only the best. I know that we will have conversations again about this. So I'm looking forward to those
Thank you.
conversations.
Thank you
Yes.
so
Thank you so
much.
much for being on the show
I
today.
am so honored. And I'm so glad that I was able to share. And, you know, it's not every day that we share our
No,
stories, even for
no.
us who go through
Yes,
things like
yes.
this. It takes that step of faith to share, because then you're opening yourself up to all sorts of,
Yeah.
you know, vulnerability. You're
Yeah.
vulnerable.
Yeah.
And some people don't know that you've gone through this, but what's the point of writing a book and then just sitting on it and not sharing?
True.
And for me, writing the book was, hey, you know, this is my story. And it's what makes me who I am, and it's part of my DNA now. And, you know, I'm just hopeful. I have so much faith.
Yeah.
And I just, you know, want to encourage younger women is this, you know, check now,
Check.
you know, check now, go through, you know, the necessary steps
Yeah.
to make sure that you're okay. Because, you know, obviously as you get older in age,
Yeah.
from 30s, they say, that's when, you know, our egg quality and different things start happening to our bodies.
Yeah.
And, you know, maybe I knew that, maybe I didn't want to,
Yeah.
to know, because I
Yeah.
was thinking, okay, well, you know, I'm
What's
just
the worst
living my
that could
best life.
happen?
I'm
Yeah.
just traveling, and I don't
True.
need to, you know. But for me, if I would have done something differently, is obviously, you know, be more purposeful about
Yeah.
checking. At the time, I wasn't married, but just knowing what some of the things that I would do in order to be able to go through this journey. But I feel like it's, as I said, it's not my fault.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things.
That
But you
is
know, I am
happening.
so
Yeah.
hopeful, and I'm so glad I was able to tell my story on here, because, you know, if I can affect one person's life in through this process,
Yeah.
then I've done my job. So I'm really excited.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Please leave us a comment, ask a question, share what you're feeling, because right now I can't put into words the things that I am feeling, but we will be talking about grief even next week, a different kind of grief. And if you're out there and you've been through this kind of grief, you're going through pain, we want to tell you that there's hope, and we wish you peace. We send you hugs and love. Please reach out and we will be here to Kweshunga with you. Thank you for watching. See you next week. Thanks to my beautiful people at Kweshunga, my beautiful guest, and the Agandi Studios team for making us happen.